whenever I was learning the alphabet
Yeah.
in Spanish, this is a little bit different. This is kind of like another interesting language fact that maybe you didn't know. You probably did though. Um, in Spanish, the alphabet, right? There are a lot of different letters, like they're pronounced similarly to a lot of other Romance languages letters, right? Um, but the letter Y is pronounced Y, right? Um, which I was like, when I learned, I was like, oh, that's a cool sounding letter. But I'd never clicked in my mind that the reason why it's called Y is because it's the letter Epsilon, right? Boom, boom, which is the Greek letter for E. And Y literally means it's the Greek E. So like whenever like you're getting words that are using that predominantly, it's like showing the Greek borrowing process, you know?
Oh, okay. That's actually kind of interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So like, I thought that was like, oh, that's cool. Y is Y. But I was like, oh, Y is actually it's literally called Greek E. Like,
Do you
that's
know what like etymology is? That's basically what you're talking about.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I very much enjoy studying like origins of language, where words get borrowed from, how they
Yeah.
evolve over time, how like pronunciation changes.
Yeah.
For sure, for
I
sure.
really like it, especially for like words that have like really ancient meaning. Like
Certainly, certainly.
if you trace it back long enough, right? And I find that very interesting how it like evolved, especially if like, like you said, like a culture borrows it from another culture, right? And that like because they won't be able to pronounce it the same way that, it was originally pronounced, right?
Certainly.
And then that culture takes it, and then another culture takes it, and then it gets even more like I guess you could say butchered, right? And then
Right,
eventually
right,
became
right.
like modern way of saying it, at least in that language.
For sure. Speaking of this whole process, a really interesting thing that I learned recently. I'll lead into it. Do you know how to say tea in Urdu?
Yeah,
Can you tell me?
yeah, it's chai.
Okay, cool. I assumed so. Um, really interesting fact is that universally there are basically only two words for tea, and they both originate in China.
Oh, really?
Yeah, the northern word for tea in Chinese is cha, and the
Oh,
southern word for it is tea. And so, depending on where your country inter- related with China and where they interacted and where they got tea from, that influenced where your country, where your language got their name for tea. And so, like
really?
basically, like you have like Spanish, you have te, in like English, you have tea, right? In Urdu, you have chai, right? Cha. There are lots of countries, I believe, that use chai and different variations of that, right? Portuguese is one of the rare Latin languages, or I think they have cha also.
Oh, really? It's actually kind of interesting. I didn't know that, but
Yeah,
it's really
yeah,
hard.
yeah, for sure. Like, and I didn't know that. Like, I always knew like China had a big tea culture, but I
Yeah.
assume that like I know tea probably sprung up everywhere independently. But the earliest records we have of like written down of like records of tea are from China. Um,
Oh,
I just find
yeah.
it
I think
so
they
cool that
did
like
originally from there, right? If I'm not
yeah,
mistaken. Right?
yeah, I think so. But I was gonna say crazy. The whole world uses this country's words for this stuff. It's like what? That's crazy.
Yeah, that is pretty crazy, honestly. You know what's actually kind of interesting? I don't know if you know this, but maybe the reason why is because some people might not know this, but Kung Fu actually, like, if you trace it long back enough,
Mm.
it actually originates from India, believe it or not.
Right,
Yeah,
Claripayat, right? I probably
yeah,
butchered that, I'm sure. Sorry.
yeah.
Yeah,
No, no, but yeah, that's exactly where it comes from. Like the martial arts you just named.
yeah, yeah. I really I need to look more into that. Like you I don't know why, but whenever so many times when you trace martial arts back, they have roots in India. Not just Kung Fu, but like Muay Thai also.
Really?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Like a lot of ancient martial arts, Eastern martial arts have roots in India, it seems to find, like if you go back far enough.
Yeah.
So that's definitely
One
an
thing
area
that
where
I
I need to
found
look
is that
more.
a lot of these like Asian martial arts, they do like originate back to India in a way
Yeah,
because funny enough, that's where actually Buddhism actually started from.
right, right, right. Yeah, yeah. And that's I think, if I'm not mistaken, the whole Shaolin myth is, or the whole Shaolin story is the Bodhidharma coming from India to Shaolin Temple to like teach the monks the postures that they would eventually turn into Shaolin Kung Fu, right?
I'm not sure familiar with the myth, but I do know that there was like a so like there was like this one king, his name was like Ashoka the Great, and he sent like these missionaries like all across the world, and obviously to China, right? And I forgot the name of the exact like priest that went there, but like yeah, he's famous for introducing it into like the I guess like more Eastern Asian world.
Right, right, right. And if I'm not mistaken, I believe that since speaking of Buddhism, I believe that in Kung Fu, Shaolin Temple is actually not just a mecca for martial arts, but it's also, I believe, the mecca for Chan Buddhism, Zen Buddhism. That is the
Probably,
origin point.
yeah, yeah, because it's, I guess like Buddhism of like I actually had this talk with like someone else
Oh, very
like
cool.
talking about like history and stuff and how the Greek art style actually kind of influenced into India and that's art
Hmm.
style like I don't know if you ever seen the statue of Hercules and Buddha. There's a
Hmm.
statue, right? And because of that statue and other art styles, right, that actually made they actually made their way into China, and that's
Huh.
why like you'll see like I guess like a somewhat of an influence even like today.
That's really interesting. That's cool.
Yeah. I actually just remembered right now is we're talking about tea, but I don't know
Yeah,
if you know like the origin of coffee.
I
Right?
don't,
Okay, so usually, I mean, there's a debate on like where coffee like
for
came
sure.
from, but it's either Ethiopia or Yemen, right?
Hmm.
Right. I mean, I think the plant itself originates from Ethiopia, but where it was actually invented, I personally believe that it was in Yemen,
Hmm.
due to like the sources, right? So from Yemen, they would call it if I'm not mistaken, in Arabic, call it kahwa, right? And then from Kahwa, it like traveled obviously to like Persia, right? And
Hmm.
like the Turks were really into tea, right?
Hmm.
But they would pronounce it as I believe Gava, right?
Hmm.
Yeah. And then some there was like some war, I think it was like the Battle of Vienna or something. And like the Turks introduced it into Europe. And from Europe, I think the Hungarians or some other European group, I forgot. But they like pronounced it like differently and then from there it became cafe, that we got coffee.
That's so cool. I did not know
Yeah.
that. Very, very, very interesting. I always like learning like origins of like little modern things that we have today that were like, oh yeah, that's just coffee, that's just tea. It's like, no, actually, that goes back a long way. That goes super far away.
Yeah. No, it's
Uh,
like words are, I guess, like one of the few things, especially if you know like the etymology behind it. It's one of the few things that connect us with the ancient world.
certainly, certainly.